into it. Okay, we're live. Okay, there's no countdown. Good evening, afternoon, morning, night, whenever you find your way to watch or listen to this. I'm Omar from the Hardware Podcast, joined by Jackson Danner, my good friend and co-host. Before we start, and of course we got our guest Chase Baker. Shoot, I probably could have managed this better and brought him in better, but I mean, as we'll get better as we do this more, we'll get better these, I guess, this platform, because we have a new partnership with Shady Sports, as they are simulcasting this podcast on their channel too, the Shady Sports Network, along with our channel, the Between the Stripes Podcast Network. Which, as a result, now all of the non-hardware podcast episodes will be going to the Shady Sports Network, and Between the Stripes Podcast Network. We'll try to rebrand that as hardware. So, Jackson, before we start the interview, how do you feel about our partnership?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited. Anything that we can both interact with more people and more people can hear about hardware, right? So it's a win for everyone. And yeah, man, I'm excited. I think getting to see some of the Shady Sports Network stuff. I think we have a lot of the same goals, right, and a lot of the same interests as far as. We're not just sticking with Power 5 in the National Football League. There's other things we're interested in. There's football beyond that, and even beyond the XFL and USFL. There's stuff like the ELF, right? Or EFL rather. So man, I'm excited. So it'll be great.
Yeah,
or it is ELF. Never mind. I was like,
yeah, you're right.
But no, that is right.
Yeah, we're both excited for this. And so now we finally get to our guest introduction. Speaking of ELF, the European League of Football, or Europa. I just knew it was something with Europe. But we have a coach, Chase Baker, the defensive line coach of the Barcelona Dragons. And if that's a familiar name, back in the old days in the Xbox, PS2 and GameCube Maddens, used to have the NFL Europe teams. Most of the teams in the ELF have those same names as the NFL Europe teams, which I think is amazing. I'm excited. We're both excited for this podcast. This morning, I bought a $9 lot of 20 cards of 2000 Topps NFL Europe cards. So I'm excited for this podcast. We both are. Chase, how's everything going? And yeah.
No, it's great, man. Out here in the Mediterranean, enjoying this unique football experience. But no, appreciate you guys having me. We were talking about it. Definitely, it's some time change issues, but we're spread out across the world. But appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on as well. So before we start our questions, I'm going to let Jackson lead in, because Jackson is more the player information type interviewer than I am. So Jackson, let's kick this off.
Absolutely. If you don't know, well, I'm sure the ELF is familiar with you if you kept up with NFL Europe and all that. If the name Chase Baker sounds familiar, then you might be a Vikings fan from the early 2010s, right? Chase, you played for Minnesota for, I believe it was 3 seasons, right, from 2012 to 2014.
Somewhere there didn't make through that 14 season, but yeah, short-lived, but definitely that was where I spent my professional career in Minnesota and loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great organization to play for, and you got to go. I got to choose there because this is the MLB where we have 20 rounds in the NFL draft, right? You were signed as an undrafted free agent. What really went into that process? Where was money the main factor for you, like it is for probably most guys, or did you take scheme into account when you chose Minnesota, or what happened with that?
Yeah, so going into that draft, I had gone through a lot of injuries, and I knew, all the teams I was talking with would be like, it'll be a late round of free agent. So I was prepared for it to be a free agency with the amount of injuries I've been through before ever getting there. And so I did do a lot of due diligence and looking at the teams, and I talked to almost every team and went through their scheme and looked at their depth, and did my fair amount of research to make sure I was going to put myself in the best spot in terms of my ability and what they needed. And yeah, they did pay me a pretty good salary or signing bonus as a free agent. But no, it was more about the fit, liking the coaches and knowing that I had a chance to make the team there.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. You did and got to play in a handful of games. And another question that actually leads in perfect to that. and you are a star at Boise State, right? So I don't know, but I'm guessing you didn't have to play too much special teams. That's crucial in the NFL, right? You only get 53 spots. So what was that adjustment like to have to play a lot more special teams where that was a lot more important for you? And also, as you know, as fans are about to watch their favorite teams throughout this preseason, what should they pay attention to on special teams plays? Because those are make or break a lot of times.
Yeah, no, definitely. Young guys and the free agents, special teams were huge. And I didn't play a ton of special teams at Boise, but I think typically defensive line, we're the more athletic fat guys, and so we tend to get stuck out on special teams. And I embraced it. I really enjoyed it. Being on kickoff return, some of that stuff. I loved it, and so it was a great way to kind of show your ability in the open field, some of your athleticism, and then your ability. Honestly, you're putting your body on the line out there, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make the team. So definitely there. I when you go into these preseasons, I love watching, these first couple, the starters get the first couple series, and then you start to see the backups, and most people start to turn off their TV then. But I think that's when you guys see, players putting their heart on the line and putting everything out there to make that team. And so that's where I enjoy watching it. I think that's where you see some of that passion coming out, and you see guys that are really, like I said, putting out their heart to try and make the team.
Absolutely. No, if you've watched Hardware before, I'm a big fan of Move the Sticks, the podcast from NFL Media. And man, I just heard Bucky Brooks talking about the other day about, man, you've got to stay warm and mentally and physically prepared, because you might not see the field until the third or fourth quarter, right? If you're the third or fourth guy on the depth chart. So absolutely, that's when you see some of the better football, because guys are playing their heart out for that, for sure. Omar, I'll let you take the next question, and then Chase, I want to start asking some questions about your coaching career as well, for sure.
Yeah, so mine's a pretty basic question, Chase. Kudos to you on the special teams, because special people play special teams. I know Jackson and I have mentioned a lot or a few times Terrell Davis. Everyone knows about Terrell Davis in I think it was like the 95 American Bowl, which ironically we were talking about a game played away from American soil on this episode of the podcast with you on. So it's just crazy how it all works out. But mine's a pretty basic question. Who was the toughest defensive lineman that you went up against, or toughest offensive lineman that you went up against in your NFL career?
If you look at my stuff, I didn't play against a ton of teams. I think I had 5 games. And honestly, if I can do this, I'm going to go back to even my college days, and he became, a top tier NFL player. But I still think he was one of the toughest offensive linemen I ever played against. But oh my gosh, right as I'm going to just say his name, I'm going to blank out of it. But he played for the University of Idaho. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on all of a sudden?
Mike Iupati? That's what I had in mind.
Mike Iupati, there you go. Mike Iupati. He was a strong bulldozer, tough, great pass blocker as well, athletic. And I played against him more in college, but that to me still stands out as the toughest offensive lineman that I played against.
For sure. As a Niners fan, I'm glad to hear you say that. Mike Iupati had a good amount of years with the Niners. Great lineman for sure. And it's kind of amazing too. I guess like this is kind of like what do you call it? A follow-up question with that. So you mentioned just Idaho. So like, how was the Boise State Idaho rivalry? Because I feel like that's kind of it was kind of a unique rivalry with the position that you were in college, with Boise State just being so dominant, and then Idaho being your in-state rival, playing in like the smallest stadium in a Division I FBS, and just really not being good at all. Like, what was like your perspective in that rivalry? Like, was a big brother, little brother feeling like huge at that time?
No, it was just pure hatred. There was no love lost. It didn't matter that they were a smaller school. I think it stems from, back in the day, it used to be a much closer rivalry, and they win, we win. But it was I don't know what it was, but it was instilled in everybody on both sides. I think it was just hatred. I remember playing at the Kibbe Dome, and they'd be chucking glass bottles at us, and every profanity and kind of thing you get, and just drunk out of control fans. But no, it was just hatred, and that was what made the rivalry awesome.
I mean that's great to hear because I mean for me what I thought you would have said is like I just like looking back like Derek Jeter with that series with like he's talking about the Mets. He's like, well, we didn't really hate the Mets because they're just the Mets. Like I thought you were gonna give an answer like that, but that's amazing to hear. I mean, it kind of sad too with Idaho going back down to FCS in the Big Sky, but shoot, man, I guess that's a great environment for fans to throw stuff on the field, like a venue as small as a Kibbie Dome. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll kick it back to Jackson first. Questions about your coaching career.
Awesome.
Omar, you're no stranger to the one-sided rivalries being a West Point grad and when Navy won in what, like 16 straight your entire childhood? So.
It's 14, and I was very uncalled for Jackson.
Coming for it.
Definitely, man. Chase, you started out your coaching career and fan-controlled football at FCF, which I actually like to keep up with. Always fun watching those games and voting on the plays and all that. You were actually the coach. There were only 4 teams, right? So you were actually the coach for the entire league. And so when you were coaching, what percentage of it was, hey, we need to win, this week's game versus the guy you're, playing right next to and practicing right next to? And what percentage was, hey, we've all got the same goal, hopefully getting the NFL or CFL contract after this?
Yeah. So as you said, there was no difference, and you never knew who you were going to be playing against week to week because, they draft a different team and, the teams would be different depending on how the drafts went. But so we went into that just making sure the D-line were ready. It was kind of nice because you went against all the O-line that you'd see, throughout each week of practice. So it wasn't like you were coming across something new. And I think it definitely was an advantage for the defensive line. I think they definitely tailored the rules to benefit the offense, right? You weren't allowed to wide, stay head up, no stunts. And then if like one of the tight ends were to go into a pass, which they allow, the defensive end had to go into coverage, which is unheard of. So they did their fair share, the FCF, of making it really tough on defensive line. And rightfully so, because I think off the bat, we just naturally had the advantage. But no, it was awesome. And each of those guys obviously, had, and a lot of them are still working towards that goal of playing in the NFL. And so it was just a great experience. I love being with those guys. And coming here, though, the only difficult part was deciding, I wasn't going to go back and coach with them. But they did their thing. They had a great season too. And I'm still in contact with a lot of those guys and wishing them well and helping them out however I can, man. But I love my time in the FCF.
I love that, you were at their inaugural season, but I love that, when Terrell Owens got signed, right? Definitely, and I'm a big James Harden fan, not the NBA player, the FCF receiver. It's awesome to see what he's done. But did Austin Eckler, Richard Sherman, the Barber brothers, all these NFL players that are pretty involved in the FCF, did they really have much input for what they wanted you to coach and instill in the players, or was it really creative control up to you?
Yeah, no, there was and I'm not trying to bash them or say anything negative, but I never heard from them, didn't talk to them once throughout the season. So they had zero influence on what was going on the defensive side of things.
That's fair. Hey, almost all offensive guys, right? And so that's
exactly,
fine.
Exactly. I'm sure the guys would have loved to heard from more, but no, that they didn't have too much influence. And we put together our scheme. Back then it was Coach Jenks, and he kind of limited on what we could do in terms of our coverage and stuff. But we just went out, and it was essentially we told them, hey, it's 1-on-1, go kick some ass and be your guy and give yourself a chance to get looked at for the next level. So that was the general theme, and didn't matter who was involved in that or not.
Yeah, so on that note too, just talking about just being an offense-focused league, it just reminds me of me following the IFL, my hometown team, the Duke City Gladiators and whatnot. And I remember seeing on their Twitter page there is a game that it ended up with 20-9, and I told my dad, I'm like, who even wants to watch it? It's isn't the point of watching indoor football to watch like as many points as possible. Like no one wants to see a 20-9 indoor football game. So it's just funny you guys are talking about how the league is like so skewed to offense, and like we've seen it. And I guess with that question, like do the defensive linemen get kind of discouraged, or any defensive guys get discouraged? Like, oh, I mean the rules are kind of stacked against us. We're just here to kind of do what we can.
No, I think, you take it with a grain of salt, and you put it on your back that, all right, well, it is what it is kind of thing. And I'm still going to work around those rules and kick butt and do my thing and put a great product on the field. And like I said, I think the coolest part was it's all one-on-one essentially. So it's you against another man and go win. And so, we knew the rules were stacked against us, and it didn't really matter. They were going out there playing their hearts out.
Omar probably thought that Rams Patriots Super Bowl was boring too. So,
I mean, shoot, like, I mean, I'm more of a college guy, but yeah, I mean, I kind of did. I mean, but no, I mean, like, it's the NFL though. Like, it's not indoor football. Like, I mean, 13-3 games happen a lot in the NFL.
That's fair.
Like,
that's fair.
What, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah. So I mean, you answered the question I had about like there being significant differences about just coaching 7-on-7 versus 11 and on 11 play with linemen, with it just being beat the guy in front of you and whatnot. But I guess comparing the atmosphere at FCF games and ELF games, like which one is which one have you liked more?
So when I was with the ELF, we were still in COVID. We were in a complete bubble. So we didn't have fans. It was completely, digital in terms of the engagement. And I enjoyed that part of it. I really did. I loved seeing it on Twitch, and I love the fact, that integration into technology and bringing that kind of aspect into it. But no, out here, obviously we're back into live fans, and the FCF had a live audience again. So I didn't get to experience that out there, but I think, no matter what, you can't beat a live audience. And I love what the FCF is doing in terms of bringing in that digital, side of things and making it more accessible online. But no, out here it's been pretty amazing. We have some wild fans here in Barcelona that they kind of bring that the soccer, mindset and nuttiness, and there's just bells and it's just nonstop noise, and they're beating on their drums, right into the visitors' sideline. And so I know we annoy the hell out of visiting teams, but it's a really cool experience out here.
So with that, I guess that soccer fan aspect, European soccer fan aspect, this type of like mentality in Barcelona, does that atmosphere compare to like the some bigger stadiums you played at in Boise State, or is it like just kind of comparing apples to oranges?
Yeah, it's very different. It's very different. I think, it's still a young sport over here. And obviously with the growth of the ELF, we're continuing to sign teams in different countries. It's going to be really cool to kind of see each country, each culture take it on and kind of put their own spin on it. But yeah, no, it's still very much young. We don't have near the fans that you would in, a Division I college type situation, but you just enjoy it for what it is, and you try and, be a part of helping it grow.
Absolutely. That seems like a rewarding undertaking, just helping the sport grow worldwide. I mean, we saw I think it was like the World League Games or something. I forgot the one that was in Birmingham, the flag football championships on NFL Network. Like that was just great to see, like the countries just like showing out in flag football, men's and women's. But I'll kick it back to Jackson for his question.
Just speaking of international growth of our sport, the NFL did announce international home marketing areas. I believe they got 8 countries involved. It grants some of their teams access to international territories where they can really market and have a lot of fan engagement. Spain is one of those 8 countries. The Chicago Bears and Miami Dolphins were given really, I believe they divided Spain in half with that. Man, you're heavily involved in the football world in Spain. What, if anything, do you know about this project? And if so, have you seen any impact so far?
Yeah, so we reached out to them, and we've been trying to put together something. But I know, typically I think, the ELF is going to be seen as more of a competition to them. So I don't know how willing they are going to be to work with this league out here. But regardless, I think there's common ground in terms of helping develop some of the grassroots stuff in terms of putting together youth leagues. And I've been really surprised, actually. There's a lot of stuff out here in terms of, women's football. There, that there's a ton of women's teams out here that are full on, full pads, full contact football. You obviously have the flag stuff as well. And so regardless, though, they could definitely use the resources that the NFL and the Bears and the Dolphins can bring in terms of the money and the publicity and getting people more involved and creating some of that excitement. So I'm excited to see what they do. I'd love to connect with them and help out where I can. But for now, I'm focused on the Dragons. But once the season ends, we'll try and get back to reaching out to them.
It's probably been a busy week for the Miami front office, but hopefully I can reach back out to you.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
2 words, wrong Brian. But anyway, but yeah, I guess on Jackson's point too, just everything we've been talking about. I guess I have kind of a compound question. So, what's been your favorite road trip in the ELF to take so far? And I guess who's Barcelona's biggest rival, you'd say, in the league right now?
Yeah, no. So far I've done trips to. Let me see, where have we gone? I've gone to Hamburg, Germany. The first game was Stuttgart, Germany. We went to Istanbul, and so I think and then Dusseldorf against the Rain Fire. In terms of the coolest stadium and city, I really like Stuttgart. Dusseldorf had the best stadium. I think they share it with one of the bigger soccer teams in the region. So huge, big stadium, really cool. And then in terms of our rivalry, I wouldn't have said this until a couple weeks ago, but Istanbul had really struggled in the season. They were winless, and we'd been on a pretty good roll. And they beat us a couple weeks ago to get their first win of the season. And a little bit of a shocker, and it was a struggle for us. But I think the way there was some nastiness in the game, and so I see Istanbul kind of rising up to kind of that rivalry level, and just in terms of the emotions that came up in the game, and even afterwards, so some of the feelings through both teams. So I think that's where that rivalry is going to be. At least in my eyes right now. So Istanbul Dragons going to be the rivalry of the future.
Yeah, that sounds great here. It sounds like it might be the Ravens Steelers in the Mediterranean. But you mentioned Istanbul too, which I told you I'm more of the geography and just other type of stuff nerd. Which I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but obviously the ELF thinks that Turkey is a European nation. Do you think Turkey is a European nation, because Turkey is not in the EU? So
no, it's not in the EU, but I think they're still considered. And it was really interesting because as we were in Turkey and Istanbul, they call it the European side and the non-European side. So it's almost like it's even split, like in Istanbul, the city, between what's part of that European and non-European country. So, but no, they are not part of the EU, and we did have to get a separate visa to get in there. But yeah, no, shoot, I think they're still within that limits, and they obviously have a pretty well organized football, a number of organizations out there. So they understand football out there, and haven't been able to put together a team. They struggle, but they've come on strong. They beat us, and they almost took out another really good team last week. So it's good to see them being competitive, and that's what the league needs, is each team to show out and build their fan base and build the excitement for their team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parity is great for any league. I know it's from a USFL perspective, seeing some of the big upsets that happened, especially the Houston Gamblers beating the Stallions, and the Gamblers, even though the Breakers, another playoff team from the South, rested their starters in the final week, having the Gamblers have beat both playoff teams in successive weeks with a losing record. Was pretty cool to see. But I guess before I kick to Jackson, I think this past minute or so shows that geography teachers, have your students listen or watch this podcast to get the wheels turning for I guess so they can do better in your classes. But I'll kick it back to Jackson.
Absolutely. No, geography was never my strongest thing in school, so I'll have to give it a look after this. Chase, being a former Boise State player and Boise State alum, just your quick thoughts on conference realignment, not just as a whole, but hey, what if Boise State does go to the, I guess, Pac-10 now again? And hey, if they were invited to the Big Ten or SEC, would could you get over it being the Southeastern Conference, and would you welcome that, or just your quick thoughts on that?
Oh man, it's so hard because for so long we've been, waiting for that to happen. And I think it's hard to cross our fingers and keep waiting. I think the school just continues to do a good job of building. They continue to make, upgrade their facilities, add new stuff. The school as whole, the value of the scholarships out there continues to rise, and the value of the degree is rising. So I think we're getting to that level to where it's going to be really hard for conferences to do for us. But in terms of hoping and praying, I don't think it does us any good. So hopefully they see the value in bringing us on, but whether they do or not, I think the team's going to continue to grow. And if we have to continue to be the giant slayer, that's the way it is. But I think we deserve to be up there as one of the giants these days.
I love it. I love it. You're not hesitating to say, "Oh, I don't want to leave the Mountain West." That's why you would welcome that. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They deserve to be in a big time conference. I think that there's nothing to be competitive. And so, shoot, just waiting for that call to happen, waiting for that announcement to be made. But
no, that's awesome. Hopefully so. Hopefully so. If there's a school really in the Power Five right now that, especially ones that haven't, already accepted a bid to go into a major Power Five, then I would put Boise State probably up there at the top. So a lot of
you think we'd be up there? Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not crossing my fingers. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah.
But, I hope that those conferences see the value in Boise, because I've been hearing talks of Fresno and San Diego State, and they're great schools, but Boise tops them for sure. And so we'll just see what happens.
Hopefully so. Omar, that's all my questions. Anything else for you, man?
Yeah, I have one more. I guess remarking the conference realignment. I think the only thing is I've never been to Boise, but with all the population stuff, sounds like Boise needs to build more skyscrapers. I guess from the sounds of it for me. That's what's holding them back. All the money thing, because on the field it matches up. Boise State being a prime candidate for, I guess, first off the Big 12 before they added those 3 schools or 4 schools, and then now the Pac-12 with whatever they do. So that's what I got to say about that conference alignment. I guess my final question is, this may have fit earlier on, I just kind of overlooked it, but in the leagues that you've played in and sort of witnessed to, or just I guess all leagues like USFL, XFL, NFL, how does the style of play kind of match up, or I guess how is it unique in the ELF? Because each kind of league has its own kind of it's nuances to what it is. The NFL is very huge on X's and O's and everything, where say the XFL had very good quarterback play, and the AAF is more defense dominant. So how does the ELF sort of have its own nuances?
Yeah, I think there's like we were talking about earlier, every team comes from a different country, a different region, different culture. And so you just get a really diverse set of teams and philosophies. And so we go in some weeks where it's power heavy team that love to run it. And then some teams are, spread and they pass it every time. So I think you get a really diverse set of offensive and defensive schemes. And so it's every week's different. So it makes it really exciting, really fun. And like I said, it's just different every week.
For sure. And I guess as we close this, where can fans like us stateside go to watch ELF? Are the games streamed on YouTube, or is there a different site that we can go on?
So all the games after they're done are streamed. If you wanted to watch it live, the ELF network, or if you go onto European League of Football, there's a subscription you can buy in order to watch it. And then if you're in these countries out here, every country has their own station that broadcasts it. But yeah, no, for the most part, you can either watch it after it's done on YouTube, or you go through the ELF network.
Sounds great. I mean, the good old days of tape delay, just that's something we haven't heard or seen or used regularly in a while. But That's all I got, Chase.
And I
Thank
will
you
say
so much.
this actually. Let me just finish off with this. ELF for when you start up the networks, they have great. They've done a great job in terms of their media and the production. They have full production teams out here. It's a really clear picture. Everything's really pretty. They got solid announcers from multiple English, Spanish, German speaking, so you can get whatever you need in terms of your language. But the production's top tier, and so that's what really cool to see from or from a young league is they made it enjoyable to watch. It's not a difficult thing. So definitely the quality's solid.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to watch it now that you said that. So I'm going to check it out now. On Saturdays, I'm free. But yeah, that's all I got, Chase. I really appreciate you coming
Awesome.
on. Jax, do you have anything else?
Chase, with you, you've been so generous with your time. I appreciate you coming on.
No problem, John. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right. No, thank you, Chase. And once again, this has been streamed on the Shady Sports Network and again on our channels. And we look forward to this new partnership. And until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul.